Thank you for joining me for another Quick Hits conversation. I'm Dr. Robyn, aka Mental MacGyver. I provide concierge high-performance support and coaching to executives, founders, celebrities, and athletes. With me today, I have Kevin Wash. He is a coach, mentor, author, trainer, and speaker, running a consultancy business specializing in sales for international property development. I have Lauren Schieffer. She's known as the Colonel's daughter. She is a certified speaking professional doing keynotes and training focusing on significant leadership. And I have Paul Wilson. He's a leadership development facilitator and executive coach who has spent the last 30 plus years as a behavioral psychologist. He's in the process of creating a new startup called the 21st Century Leaders Development Company. The question I have today, would you rather impact 1 billion people for 1 year or 1 million people a year for 1,000 years? It's the same number of people, but which would you rather? Lauren, what do you think?
I would take the latter.
Okay, why?
I would take the latter because I believe that we should all affect others like a ripple effect.
Okay.
And if I hit 1 billion people, some of them may age out before they've affected many people.
Okay.
If I hit 1 million and then 1 million more, and then 1 million more, the chances of half of the people that I hit in the first billion that 1 year dying before the ripple effect takes hold the way it could is less likely. So I'm going for a younger generation and hitting 1 million of them for 1,000 years.
This is really unusual for me because normally when I get asked these questions, it's quite easy for me to work out which side of the fence I'm going to go on. This one, I started one side of the fence, then I went to the other side of the fence and I've come back again. So I'm going to just, at the moment, I'm going to go with my initial reaction, which was the opposite to Lauren, which is I'm going to take the 1 billion. And the reason I'm taking the 1 billion is because that gives me approximately 12.5% of the world's population. And I think from that, I can gather tremendous momentum. So I can expand my 1 billion into potentially 2 or 3. I totally accept Lauren's point about people dying off. But I'm hoping that with my marvelous plan, with the momentum, I will grow the 1 billion, which allows the people to fall off. So my take is if I get that momentum now, that will pass on over the years and it will create its own movement. There'll be no room for it to be diluted annually because I'm impacting a much lesser percentage of the population.
Okay, Paul.
I've done the same. I've looked at both sides of this coin, and I think obviously they're both equally important. So first of all, I'm going to look at 1 million people for 1,000 years. It obviously puts in the whole concept of creating legacy, which we're all here to do, of course. Wouldn't it be lovely for our names to, as Gladiator said, echo through eternity? Have we got that long? Is the question. Have we got 1,000 years in human history? And we really are at a tipping point here where we have to make some huge changes right now. So therefore, 1 billion people in a year, as going back to Kevin's point, affects change. If we can influence them to the point where they're starting to change behaviors, and we know the behaviors that are impacting the potential of not being here in 1,000 years' time. If everybody were to say, I'm going to reduce my air miles, I'm going to not use single-use plastics, I'm going to become more environmentally conscious, that becomes then those ripple effects, which is exactly what Lauren was saying as well. So there's advantages to both. With regards to the whole point about legacy, I read an interesting description just yesterday about self-esteem. And self-esteem is us as human beings really wanting to position ourselves in the world, say to the world that we have existed. And I think that one of my favorite poems, in fact, I've got it here in front of me, it's Ralph Waldo Emerson, is and it satisfies both of these things. It's to say, to leave the world a bit better and to know that one life has breathed easier because we have lived. This is to have succeeded. And that really is my mantra.
I look at this almost in a kind of selfish way in that if I'm going to affect that many people, 1 billion people, I want to see it. I want to watch it happen. I mean, yay, I have a legacy and 1,000 years from now, somebody's like, oh, this really ancient human did this thing and that's super cool. No, I want to see it happen. I want to be able to experience the joy of making that impact. And if it ripples through history, yay. But so I guess I'm more selfish in that I want the billion now. Let me see it happen.
I think that's perfectly normal, because this is the thing, we're all coaches, and we all plant seeds and we all throw the pebbles in the pond, and hopefully there are the ripples, but we never really see the benefits, do we? It's a bit like he who plants a tree knowing they'll never sit under its shade is doing something for the future. And we all do that, don't we? But yeah, you're quite right. Wouldn't it be lovely to see that as well?
I think also a lot of it depends on how or what you're going to influence people, because what you're influencing with today in 10 years or 100 years time may be so far removed from what would impact them at that time, it has absolutely no impact. So unless you have the ability every year for 1,000 years to come and readjust what it is you're going to impact them with, if you can do that, then I'm going for the longevity. If you can't do that, I'm back to A in the 1 billion today.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, I didn't think that there was very much that could be said that was going to change my mind. And I don't know that I've changed my mind on it, other than I was certainly thinking philosophical. And Paul, you went right down to reality. And that is valid. My initial concern was, if I hit 1 billion people in 1 year, does it become fad? Fads pass away. Whereas if the message continues over 1,000 years, it may not be fad and it may take hold. I don't think this is not as easy a decision as I thought it was.
Again, if you look at the numbers of it, 1 million people sounds an awful lot. There's probably 1 million people around the world today that belong to the Flat Earth Society. So you take the 1 million, yes, you're going to get a fallout fact. You'll get some people that think, oh, I forget it, it's a fad. Absolutely right. 6 weeks down the road, they've given up, like that classic gym membership that you pay for in January, and sit for the next 6 months wondering, what's this money going out of my bank every month? Never use it. But there's still, with 1 billion, there's still enough people left to actually give it a momentum. Whereas for 1 million people a year across the planet, I'm not sure that's enough to actually continue to grow.
Valid point.
I think Warhol put it well as well, didn't he? It was the proverbial 15 minutes of fame. And I think particularly with regards to the throwaway society and the very pace of particularly social media, we may well have influencers that have got 1 billion followers, but what impact are they really making? And I think that's really Kevin's point, isn't it? To be able to say that there's a lot of power that goes with that. So we've actually got to be able to do it in a really, really positive way as well. And
that's a good point. Like, we didn't even talk about, what does it mean to influence 1 billion people? Yeah. What does it mean to influence 1 million people? How are we influencing? What kind of change are we creating? What does that even look like? We didn't talk about that. We didn't even touch on it yet.
I think because we have 4 very nice people on this quick hits, we're looking at it all from a positive factor. But you could actually twist it the other way and think, well, what can I do? If I can influence 1 billion people, how much damage or destruction, or in 1 year, how much personal gain can I take from this?
History has proven that it doesn't take 1 million people a year for 1,000 years to have a really negative impact on a situation.
And even more so in this era of fake news and people politicizing messages that are quite frankly wrong, and despots and so on, and the way they're manipulating the media. You can still have lots of followers, but still preach lies. So it's got to be about the fundamentals. So let's go back to the philosophy of truth.
I go back to in today's society, we want a 3-minute boiled egg, but we want it in 3 seconds. So what are we going to be like in 100 years' time? What will be the relevant topics? And when you look in our lifetimes, how much the world has changed, and really some of the conversations that we talk about today, that 25 years ago, you could never have imagined these as topics of conversation. What will it be like in another 25 years? So how does what you're trying to do today stay current for that length of time?
Go ahead, Paul.
In saying that, I think, and this is what fascinates me about the human Givens approach in terms of the fundamental needs that we have. We know the Maslow, biological, physiological, etc. But those emotional needs, the need of connection with other people, connection and community, the need for being listened to and having autonomy and being valued and all of those kind of things. I think they're basic human fundamental values that will, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed here as an optimist, that will still be the same in 25, 50, 100, 1,000 years' time.
Well, we can hope so. That is 10 minutes to talk about how to impact 1 billion people and whether we should do it now or over the future. And I appreciate you all having this philosophical discussion with me. I look forward to speaking to each of you again very soon.